Next thing I know, I'm going from looking outside the car to being above the car, looking down at myself with my friend crying like crazy over my body and holding my hand, trying to find my pulse. I turned around and I saw a tunnel of light, and then there was my grandmother, and behind her, all of our ancestors and these interdimensional beings that were part of my ancestral lineage. I began to understand the meaning of the human desire, human life, human co-creation. And I was asked, would you like to continue this lifetime or do you want to move on? I had the choice then.
The A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast.
I'm here with Geraldine Orozco. She's had many spiritually transformative experiences, including a near-death experience. Hello, Geraldine. How are you?
Hi, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.
I would like to know about your spiritual journey, how this NDE transformed you, as well as these other experiences.
In 2018, I reached a certain point where I had some very powerful existential awakening experiences that led to the question of why we are living, why we are embodied, why do we experience this human realm? And it was then that I had this experience when I visited Mexico. I went to see the pyramids in Mexico, in Tulum, and the power of those pyramids is so amazing. I began to recover memories of having lifetimes there and the work that I was doing, and also, what were all these rituals and things that they were having, the concepts of death and how the Mayans revered these kinds of death concepts and the afterlife. And as I was kind of having this experience, I began to have a heat stroke in the middle of this park. And, I was able to work energetically because I learned how to work with energy mastery and things like that. And it helped me regulate my body. But by the time I reached the exit of this park, and I had been drinking like 11 bottles of water to help myself regulate and bring myself back into awareness because I was losing consciousness, we get into the car. And for those of you that have been there, Tulum is about 2 hours away from the city. So any hospital, any kind of emergency center, there's nothing. So we get into the car and we drive. And about 15 minutes down the road, we stopped to use the restroom because I had drank so much water trying to recover from the heat stroke. And I enter into this tiny little stall in the middle of the jungle, very rustic place. And I use the restroom and I close the door and I walk out. And the next thing is I reach to open the door of the car and my hand is just covered with boils, completely covered. And the boils were getting bigger and they were rushing, moving up my arm almost within those few minutes. So I get into the car and I don't know what's happening, but then I notice my feet are also having these boils all the way up my legs. And we start rushing down the street and we have a normal stop by the police. The police checks and I show him what's happening. And he says, you got bit by a scorpion and you're having a reaction to it. And, I panicked because, I never imagined, a scorpion bite. And we're in the middle of nowhere. And at that point, we're driving. We tell the police, tells the further checkpoints to allow us to move quickly through them without getting pulled over because of the emergency. And my friend drives like 150, God knows how fast he was going down the highway. But it was too late because I was going into an anaphylactic shock and my tongue swole up, my throat swole up. I couldn't breathe. My chest began to feel so tight and I lost consciousness finally at one point. And my friend, next thing I know, I'm going from looking outside the car to being above the car, looking down at myself. In the car, in the passenger seat with my friend crying like crazy over my body and holding my hand, trying to find my pulse. And it was at that moment that, I turned around and I saw the light, a tunnel of light, but also there were three pathways that were kind of open. It was the tunnel of light, and then there was my grandmother that appeared with a woven basket of bread, and behind her, all of our ancestors, for generations. And behind that, the ancestors were all of these interdimensional beings that I've never seen before that were part of my ancestral lineage. And I began to see the images of what was going to happen with my family, how they were going to respond, the pain, the suffering that my mother, father, and brother were going to be experiencing, and basically taking into account the result of that experience. And I felt very sad that they would be going through that kind of an experience, that sorrow. And I asked, why is this happening? What's the purpose of that? What's the lesson that I'm sharing with them through this? And then I'm shown a black and white checkered floor before me, which has a lot of symbolism for those of you that are into more esoteric symbolism. But on top of this black and white checkered floor is this gigantic scorpion that appears before the light. And on the other side of these three systems of light are other spirit beings that were my fractals of myself. Other lifetimes that I had lived were also present behind the scorpion. And the scorpion basically is telling me, and I'm doing my energy work, and I teach people how to work with karmic contracts. I haven't talked about what I do, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But I ask to be shown what is the contractual agreement that I'm learning in this experience. And a contract appears, and the contract is basically, it's telling me all of the limitations and beliefs I had about the human experience. And they were exactly the things that I was working on. It wasn't from a place of suicide or depression, but it was a place of genuine questioning. What is the purpose of the existence of the human form? Because I reached a certain point of kind of peace and internal harmony in which I didn't have any more human desires. I wasn't desiring physical interactions or the physical life. It was such a peace, and it was a difficult place to be because it felt very lonely in that sense. There was very few people that you can interact with, connect with, and have conversations with at that level. And it was at that moment where I asked this, and basically I began to see how each life experience is a manifestation of our core belief systems that we have, even within the chakra bodies. And Mexico being a key energetic vortex of this kind of archetypal energy of the mother and life, of the womb, of this sexual creative energy, it was the perfect place to have this kind of a lesson. And it was a contractual agreement that I had with that land, with many lifetimes there, and those belief systems. So as I began to understand this, even the most primal desires of human, because I have experienced transcending those primal desires, I began to understand the meaning of the human desire, human life, human co-creation. And right when I understood that, and I was asked, I heard, are you ready? Would you like to continue this lifetime, or do you want to move on? I had the choice then. And I understood what my purpose was and how I needed to continue working here. It came very clear to me. And just as I dissolved that contract of that experience, of that belief system, all of these aspects moved into the white light, and I was just thrown back into my body. And it's almost as if I could finally breathe again in that car. And I don't know how, but we ended up somehow, I don't know how much time had passed, but we were just maybe 30 minutes away from the hospital by the time I came back to consciousness. And at the hospital, the police, the nurses and the doctors were checking everything. They didn't understand how I survived, how I was able to overcome like that kind of an anaphylactic shock without any kind of support, medical support or intervention. And they just checked everything, and I was given all kinds of medications at that moment. But I made it through that experience. And so I guess what I learned is kind of I kind of had this lesson of what it meant to live and die, and what was the afterlife, what is this life, the meaning of this life, the incarnation of this life. And it was a gift because as a result of this experience, a couple things came about. First of all, I began speaking light language, which, basically began to receive information in different sound frequencies. It's almost as if my range of visible expansion of light, of the spectrum of light, had expanded much further. And I'm going to tell you the other story in a minute, because it had already been opened before from another experience that I had. But it's almost as if it was extended into understanding the realms beyond the physical body. And that was very interesting. It was a completely different library of information. But in addition, I began to paint just overnight. And I would paint energy, what I would see in the body, what I would experience, and how I would heal people energetically. So it changed my life in many different ways, because that death, that entering into that death realm, changed my understanding of interdimensional contact, which was my origin story, is how, I got into all of this, is my experiences with interdimensional contact.
So when you had this experience after you were bitten by the scorpion, you said that you saw some interdimensional beings that were linked to your ancestors. Did you have any contact with them after your experience? And have you had more contacts with interdimensional beings? You talked about the Pleiadians. Did this become something recurrent in your life?
In that experience, the connection with the interdimensional beings, they became present, but I don't connect to any one species, so it doesn't matter if it's Pleiadian. There's many, many different beings that became present there, which were a continuation of my ancestral lineage. Okay, so part of the research that I do with my experiencers is notice how contact is essentially something that is programmed in our DNA, and it's part of our ancestral lineage. So when we think of ancestry, we think of our Earth ancestors, but we also have interdimensional ancestors, because again, we seem to participate in groups or councils somehow. Our soul has councils, organized councils of information. And I think that they become organized by archetypes. Okay, so there's 13 main archetypes that the human is experiencing in this universe. And those 13 archetypes are organizing the different species that we interact with. So in this afterlife for me, there were many different species, not just Pleiades, many that were there. More recently, a couple months ago, I experienced another near-death experience where I was taken into this chamber of light, losing consciousness. And in the chamber of light, I was surrounded by 12 beings of white light. And these 12 beings of white light, I had met many times in these experiences.
Can you tell us about this second near-death experience? How did it happen?
All of a sudden, started feeling very, very sick over the past 3 months. And I went to the doctor several times. They weren't finding anything in my blood tests specifically. But I was becoming sicker and sicker. And one day, I go to the emergency room with this situation, and they run the tests, and my blood levels were so low that, they were trying to figure out what the origin was. And of course, they have to run tests and put you into all kinds of scans and blood tests and everything. And they still were not understanding the origin of why my blood levels had changed drastically overnight. And that night, when I'm waiting to get all these tests back, I was so weak, I lost consciousness. I couldn't anymore. And as I'm losing consciousness and going into this experience, I'm hearing, the bells of these alarms going off in the emergency. And I'm just taken into this room of white light. And I already understand what is happening there. It was very different. The construct of the space was different from my last experience. The last experience was a very, very specific tunnel of light with these different options of information. But in this case, it was just a room of white light. And there were 12 beings that were there. And these 12 beings began to show me what was going to happen in the earth coming in these next 10 years. And it's almost as if this entire health situation is orchestrated for me to come to this point of accessing this kind of information. Because as soon as they give me all this information, and you can let me know if you want me to go into that information with you, but after they give me the images and the downloads and teach me like what is going to happen, how it needs to change in order to move forward, it just closes. And I find myself again back in my body. And, everyone's, worried and nobody knows what happened. Once again, a couple days pass and my blood levels are back to normal. And so, and the doctor looking at me like, did you make this up? Did you make this illness up? But the numbers are pretty clear, right? From 1 minute, they were extremely low to the moment when they went back to normal. And so I don't have an explanation for that medically. The doctors don't have an explanation medically. But spiritually and intuitively, I feel that this is something that was orchestrated for me to enter into this state, and receive this information. It's a series of very powerful information about the transition point that we're coming here on Earth. Right now, we're entering into a new period because we're just entering a 125-year cycle, 1,000-year cycle right now, and entering into the period 9. This is the year 1. 2026 is year 1. Year 1s are designed for the beginning of a new era. But in this case, the entire universe is entering into a higher octave. And that means that we're going to experience down to the molecular level of our bodies, particularly our organisms, are going to be changing in how we process photonic energy and life force through the body. And in such a way that essentially our DNA is changing. And what I mean by that doesn't mean that our physical organism is going to change physically, the form of our body is the same. But how we process information is going to become a very physical experience. And there is a powerful activation of a new range of octave of frequency that is available to human. What that means psychologically, emotionally, and etherically is that our bodies of light are expanding into higher ranges. And we are opening and expanding our visible capacity from the visible spectrum of light beyond. And so what that means essentially is that we can process etheric information. And not only can we, but we must, because there's going to be kind of an elimination of certain human organisms that are not in alignment with the frequencies of this new construct.
How will this affect society?
Well, in every way, because there is a destruction of the current systems, a tremendous deconstruction of the systems. And right now we are at the very edge of that fall, of that change that's going to be happening very powerfully and strongly this year, 2026, going to 2027, 2026 will be the beginning of these major life experiences of changes, of transition points. The government systems are going to be changing tremendously into a more organized, unified system. That's something that's very important to understand because we're not just talking about separate systems or bipartisan politics now. We're kind of talking about a system that's coming into a unified global system, for starters. Secondly, the financial systems are going to be changing tremendously Number one, currency is going to be changing. How we exchange money, the meaning of money, how money is utilized. One form is that it's going to be digitized in something that is more of a currency that can move internationally. And many markets that right now are thriving are going to crash tremendously because there is a rewriting of the entire structure of society. Real estate, how houses are sold, how they're built, why they're built, how they're built, is going to be restructured. And this will happen incrementally from now until 2037, because the new wave that is coming into our society, just like how we had a change when the internet began to take over, everything, the internet changed everything. We're going through another change like that. And this is going to be the implementation of more advanced technology. There will be a lot of advanced technology that will be revealed, things that have been worked on for a very long time that have been hidden and held back because of these structures and systems that are in place right now of control and, things like that, that want to monetize and have power over human race. Those things will collapse as these systems start to emerge, and that will cause a lot of turmoil. It's going to cause little civil wars. It's going to cause political wars. It's going to cause conflict within people, in societies, in everyday cities. It's a destabilization of what we thought was the structure of our society and what needs to come in now.
So these 10 years will be like more wars, more problems, or what?
Yeah, so, I don't want to say wars in that sense, because what I was shown is that even though there's going to be so much instability, the people that are driven by money, that are driven by greed, that are driven by power and control will be the ones that will suffer this transition points the most. And so the changes will be done rapidly, and they will cause rapid ascension of consciousness in people. And each human has their own lessons that they have to learn, their own ways that they're going to learn these difficult changes in your own way. The more rigid you are, the more difficult it's going to be. This is also true archetypally for collective groups, right? So certain groups of people that are holding these kinds of archetypes. So those groups of people on this planet Earth will be experiencing war-like experiences as well. Okay, so I'm not saying that there's going to be a global third world war, because there's a lot of energies to balance that out. But there will be micro conflicts, a lot of conflicts.
What about spirituality? Will that increase worldwide? And also, the people say that the extraterrestrial contact will increase. And I don't know if you had that in your vision as well.
Yeah, well, it's hand in hand, because a lot of the technology that's going to be revealed is supposedly reverse engineer. But in my humble opinion, based on what I have understood of all our history, the true history of our reality, these are technologies that have simply been suppressed even since the 50s and before that, the 20s and before that. Okay, so there's many generations of technologies that have been held back. Now there will be disclosure of that technology. It's going to look like alien technology, but it's technology that we've always had, always been developing, but has been hidden from, popular awareness. There is a battle of technology within the countries because they are battling for power. And so one thing that will be revealed is who will be the new power. It's not going to be the same old powers as before. There will be a major shift in power, political power, and I guess military power as well. The true military power will come to face, because right now we think it's just, let's say the United States and other countries have their own powers that we know. But in the back, there has been another military power that has always been kind of manipulating all of these smaller powers. So we're going to understand that. We're going to understand that the political and military and industrial system is a global system. It's a unified global system. And the emergence of this technology will merge with our understanding of extraterrestrials, because I think that narrative is also being manipulated in some way. The narrative of extraterrestrials and maybe invasions of ETs or ET technology is going to cause, they're gonna use that to create fear in people in order to implement further levels of control of technology, weaponry, and all of this advanced stuff. And so that's something that we have to pay very close attention to, because true interdimensional technology it's very advanced. We on Earth, even though we're going to be surprised by the technology we see, it's not going to be anywhere like the real organic interdimensional technology. And so that's something that we can learn, not to be afraid of whatever is being promoted by media, because media will play a major role in creating major waves of fear for humans. And so the invitation spiritually, as you asked, as we become more multidimensional, is that we become masters of life force cultivation, masters of intuition, learn how to remote view. These kinds of technologies, these organic technologies, need to rise. What I was shown is that our human race is going through a split, and in one direction going through transhumanism, and the other direction is the advanced application of these advanced technologies. And so we are at a choice point. And right now we're going to go through turmoil from now until 2027. Those of you that are aware are going to probably implement and activate those abilities. But the majority of the human race will catch up in 2027. One beautiful thing that is going to emerge from all of this change is that the educational system will be destroyed, because all of the old understanding of physics, psychology, science, the etheric realms are going to start merging into one holistic system of information. And so this is the future of our education and our understanding of the sciences, that right now we compartmentalize everything, and that's a problem, because now we have separate equations. In order to understand this universe, we need to come into a unified awareness, where we understand physics and math as part of the languages of the universe, but it's also part of the construct of the advanced medicine of the body. It's also part of our biology. It's part of our genetics, our understanding of our DNA and holographic systems. So there are already many advancements that have been released just in the past year on near-death advanced research and interdimensional awareness and the topic of consciousness, which will become even more of a mainstream topic in these next couple years. So even though I'm talking about the destabilization of this society, the outcome, what I see as a potential timeline for humanity and what we really need to move towards, work towards, participate in co-creating, is the anchoring of higher faculties, the connection to the divine, the understanding that we are not physical bodies, we are spiritual souls, having these experiences, which means that we have a lot of mastery over the physical. We can change timelines, we can heal the body. And I think that the advancements of spirituality and medicine and sciences are going to open the doors to a new level of medicine for humanity. So I definitely see that the future can look bright if we choose to activate these kinds of higher faculties rather than depend on implantation technology. We have to be very aware of that. I was also shown that there will be new illnesses that will come out as a result of the addiction to technology. Right now, we are psychologically, biochemically addicted to media and telephones, and that is a very real psychological, biological effect that will start to show in our society neurologically in the next couple years, which needs to be corrected. Now with artificial intelligence coming into everything, it's changing the way our brain functions. And so etherically in the body, we need to become more co-creative and more conductive bioelectrically. Okay, so the regeneration of conductivity in the body is only going to happen if you are disconnected from these false and magnetic fields that are destructive to your body. So yeah, there's a lot of things there, but I see that the future is very bright for humanity, but we need to come back to love. We need to come back to harmonic order. We need to come back into alignment with nature and not be in survival and fear where you're going to want to depend on these external false systems of support. That's going to be very important for the human race right now.
People have talked for centuries about the age of Aquarius. They talked more recently that we are entering the fifth dimension. And it seems, based on what you're saying, that we are really entering this new era. You talk about year one.
To be honest, what's re-emerging is the ancient mystery schools, what we have learned in the ancient mystery schools. What is that? Those are the foundational laws of nature and how humans relate to nature. Right now, our society has become a product of conditioning and psychological engineering. It is imperative that the human begin to peel those layers of false narratives, identifications, attachments to this construct. Because underneath that is the core essence of the human that is always divine, it is always whole, it is always complete, it is always healed, it is always in harmonic order. So in order for the human race to thrive spiritually, moving into the future, we need to, at the base of this destruction of the human old system, what do we rise up? We need to build a society that is based on laws of the universe, which is a completely different thing. And it's never been seen on this planet long enough to evolve. The human has an opportunity right now to create a society that is based on laws of the universe, to create a next level civilization. And so we're going back to the ancient studies of energy, of pure energy manipulation, learning how to work with energy medicine being the future, frequency medicine. And all of that is from the operator of the human, that when the human becomes highly conductive, it can move matter. It can just like in the Star Wars films where they talk about these Jedis, we are really needing to embody those arts now, because this will be our new survival toolkit. Okay, so survival is going from the primitive form into the advanced multidimensional form of the human. And what is emerging is a being that is deeply in harmony with nature and natural order. And from there emerges all the spiritual tools that Jesus modeled for us, all the ascended masters that we've known through history. There is a deep need to come back to that ancient and universal wisdom. So that is what's happening. And one of the problems that I'm seeing right now with AI, with the internet and massive amounts of information, many people are becoming spiritually confused. And also there's a lot of manipulation within the spiritual community, in which information becomes, this idea, this personality. And that is going to be severely tested when we come into these new energies, and you cannot hold your peace, you cannot hold your grounding, you cannot regulate your nervous system, you cannot connect to your intuition and trust your guidance. This will be tested as we move into these next couple years. So spirituality is going to be forced to become our actual embodiment rather than concepts and idea illusions, and I guess externalization, because a lot of people listen to channelers and listen to other people. We need to come back to the self, and we have to teach ourselves and remember these ancient teachings that are within us. The way I discovered is not through reading books. It's through hours of meditation. It's hours of looking at how my body functions. And this is what we all need to be spending some time doing, hopefully.
What have you learned about the afterlife and all these dimensions where near-death experiencers go, where they find their deceased relatives? What goes on, according to your experience, when people die and cross over?
The way that I understand it is that it's a continuation of us, right? So think of your life in the physical realm as one of millions of lifetimes that you're living simultaneous to this moment. And so the afterlife, per se, that term, I mean, when we are leaving or detaching from the physical vessel, you begin to enter into this realm of many dimensions. And usually where you go or what you experience is based on vibrationally, your capacity of how you're able to move vibrations in the body. So your vibrational resonance creates opening into dimensional dimensions that you can enter into through resonance, through vibrational frequency, because you're pure energy. And so the ancients used to train becoming lucid in dream state in order to practice becoming lucid for death. And so this is something that, every human experiences dreams, but we don't think much about dreams. We think about dreams as being, just more of a metaphor. But in our dreams, we are navigating these dimensions, many dimensions, every night, every single night, whether you remember it or not. And so what I've experienced is that death is just the entering into those dimensional realms based on vibrational frequency of all the experiences that you've experienced through life, right? So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and thousands of regressions that I've done, experiencing death and what that looks like for humans when they detach from the body, entering into the death interdimensional states. It's always the same. You leave the physical body, but you continue on with an awareness of some kind of journey or some kind of experience, and you select those experiences. And so when you enter into this time space, you have many options. There are many options that are provided for the human. And when your contractual agreement seems to end, or when you have created, these seem to be pre-designed. Even before you're born, you kind of have a pre-idea of when you're going to experience these kinds of things, death, and when you're ready to leave. And so what I've learned is that we reach a certain vibrational frequency that we have to reach before we experience a death. And that vibrational signature that we reach will define where we go next. It's going to define who you encounter, how you encounter whatever you need to encounter in the afterlife. And usually it's the resolving and finalizing of contractual agreements that have not been resolved in this lifetime. Usually they will define how you incarnate next. So if in this lifetime, you didn't spend a lot of time recovering your memory of who you are, chances are you're just cyclically repeating karmic loops that are ancestral, and they are a reflection of your DNA, because in your DNA you have the blueprints of all of your behavioral, psychological, somatic memory is all encoded, and that DNA at the time of death is left in the physical body, but it's part of the larger field of the morphogenetic field. So when you enter into this afterlife, it's almost as if your energy becomes received and returned back into this morphogenetic field, where you become all again temporarily. And that experience of becoming all is the lifting of all the veils of everything that you've ever experienced. And usually we seem to have some kind of choice in this realm about where we're going next, but it's not a choice like we make choices here. It's a choice based on higher order. It looks like souls are operating by a higher self-organizing system in which we are allocated and directed to the life experiences, even different universes, in which we can experience in order to expand on whatever we have and have not experienced in this lifetime. So I also feel that the same realm that we enter in dream state, it's the same realms that we're entering in the afterlife. It's the same dimensional planes that we're entering with interdimensional beings. There's a certain architecture to this construct.
How is this interdimensional contact you mentioned?
Well, I will back up into 2013. I had been in a retreat for about 4 or 5 months. And, I had been studying meditation since I was very young. I'm meditating already since I was maybe 8, 9 years old, meditating very young, but really deepening that practice and studying meditation and answering profound questions. In 2013, I went into retreat, and I was meditating maybe 9 hours a day. And I went through every single life experience all the way back to the womb of my mother. I mean, every single one. I revisited, I saw, I understood, I integrated aspects of myself, and it began to lead me into past lives. And I recovered the memory of past lives, and I was just shown my past life like this reel of a movie, like as if you're watching a movie, every single lifetime that I was, and the patterns that I was living in those lives. And this led me to question, again, the human construct in the physical world. Like, why do we have this construct? Who designed the construct in which we live? Who designed the societies, the engineered, psychologically, the framework of how our humanity has evolved through history? And how that was answered was in October of 2013. One night I was sleeping, and my room was filled with this white light, and the white light comes from the window that is completely sealed with my, blinds and everything. So I get up and I go to the light. The time is 3:33, and as I'm looking out of this window, my entire body becomes paralyzed, and I'm being moved through the wall outside my house. And outside of my house was this gigantic orb of white light, a gigantic lenticular craft of some kind, from which 6 beings emerged. And one of them comes to me, and this being is, it looks like a gray being, very tall, 7-foot tall being. And I've never seen this kind of body, this structure of being. So of course it was terrifying. But they invite me on board the craft. And on board the craft, I am seeing my aunt, who was in her nightgown, completely unconscious. And I call out to her, and, she's disappearing there. And they lift this holographic imagery, and they begin to show me information. The first thing that they show me is in kind of alien language, which is telepathic language that begins to input all kinds of memories and ideas and concepts into my mind. I'm seeing it as I'm reading it. Secondly, they show me this blue prism cube with 8 layers. And the first layer is showing me the Pleiades. And since I was a child, I used to pray to the Pleiadian constellation. I don't know why, I just had such a strong connection to the Pleiades, just when I was even 5 years old, very young, before I even knew the name of that constellation. But in this experience, we're taken to the planet Maya. And in the planet Maya, I am shown these elders, and they show me, myself, in the incarnation as a Pleiadian in 2 different lifetimes, and what I'm doing there. And I'm being brought back into the craft. They show me some children. Apparently, these are children that I had helped create. And a series of information, in addition to very advanced physics and biology of the planet Earth. And so essentially the construct and the foundation of the matrix. So all this information, is kind of coming into holographic imagery and impressions. It completely changes my life. And it's the first time in my life that I experienced this profound peace. So I find myself again in my room, and I see myself at the end of the bed, and I feel like I got hit by a truck. And as I'm looking at my phone and I'm thinking I'm going to call the police or call the hospital, I realized that that would sound just insane. So 24 hours pass, I sleep the whole day. And on Monday, as I'm entering into my office to teach my class, I can see my student like a gigantic ball of light, and I can see absolutely everything. I can feel what she's feeling. I can see her thoughts, her emotions. The veil had just ripped completely open. And it was so powerful that I can actually hear the conversations of my neighbors that live 4 houses down from mine. When they were in the kitchen, they were talking about something. I could see through walls. And so this opening of my intuitive capacities, I experienced for maybe 6 months at that intensity until I learned how to work with my energy body. And so, that was my first touch into these interdimensional realms. I've had experiences as a child, but they weren't conscious and they weren't as aware as this was fully conscious. And so that was the beginning of the activation of my intuitive capacities.
Do you consider this like an alien abduction?
I don't use the word abduction at all because I feel that these are interdimensional realms which we enter. And although they appear to be completely physical, they're very interdimensional. And so I don't believe it's abduction of any kind. There's nobody that's taking you or doing anything like that. These are co-creative experiences that we meet ourselves on other dimensional planes. And obviously it wasn't the first time that I had interacted with these beings, but it was the first time that I had the conscious recollection. And, throughout the entire experience, I was conscious through it. So aliens, I'm not sure exactly what that term means necessarily to us, I guess, at this time. But what I know is that these are interdimensional beings and they can take on any form. There's many different dimensional realms from which these beings come. But the interesting thing is that what I learned through my near-death experience is that we also encounter these kind of archetypal beings in the same way that we're having these kinds of interdimensional out-of-body experiences. We also are having in the dream state, in the afterlife, in this perceived afterlife or in-between state, because they were also there in that state.
You do therapy, hypnotherapy, you take back people to their past lives. What do you do exactly?
As a result of my life experiences, I have a very, very, very heavy educational background in many different aspects. But eventually it went from advanced pranic medicine. And then I went back to school and I became an epigenetic psychotherapist because I wanted to understand the connection between DNA and our psychology, like that what is the connection between that? And essentially became a clinical hypnotherapist to research our navigation of the subconscious mind. Are we just making this up? Are we all going through some psychosis? What's actually happening? So my area of passion is to research the subconscious mind and where we create our programs, our programming and our patterns. We're creating on many dimensions. We create life here on Earth, which are the children that we have. And we are also creating many things in many dimensions that we don't remember, we have no understanding of. The key, I guess, for the initiate, which was taught in these ancient mystery schools, is that you become a creator that is lucid and conscious, that you remember what you're creating, why you're creating. And that is something that the human race is very immature right now. We're at a very immature point that we're maturing into a civilization that's beginning to understand what it means to take responsibility for your creation and to have a real intention behind the creations that you're having. So I offer something called DNA reprogramming, which is working with the somatic energy emotional system to reach the core memories of where those programs are created in our subconscious and deprogram them. And so the result of the deprogramming is the creation of new frequency, which is, you can say, the activation of DNA, dormant DNA, which is essentially memory. And what memory is in our bodies is bioelectricity. Okay, so, and we learned this in ancient mystery schools, that we are bioelectrical toroidal fields of energy that become stagnant and blocked until you clean all of that debris, right? Psychological, mental, thought form debris, to open up the pathways of life force, which result in healing, vitality, reconnection, to the divine. And so that is the purpose of these sessions. And with hypnotherapy, you are cultivating that conductivity to recover the memory of who you've been. And of course, when I talk about been and have been past lives, I'm talking about accessing simultaneous fractals of yourself, which are relevant to your journey now, your purpose, whatever it is that you're doing. So I facilitate these sessions. I also have an international support group for anybody having interdimensional experiences. And you can find that at hybridmother.com. And if you want to work with me, I also teach on my YouTube channel at Geraldine Orozco. That's what I do.
So how can people contact you if they're interested in learning more about you?
Yeah, so you guys can reach me at geraldineorozco.com and through the YouTube as well. So thank you so much, AJ. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
This has been the AJ Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.